We are delighted to be hosting you at the Kia Oval itself this evening. It's, as you know, a historic ground. You can look out to the pitch and see the pitch that hosted the very first Ashes Test in England, also where Solen Hutton scored 364 runs. In 1968, when it looked like England might be robbed of the Ashes because the ground was flooded, Colin Cowdrey actually enlisted the help of the spectators to dry up the outfield. And that spirit has really kind of kept going. Only a couple of years ago, after England won the Ashes here in 2013, Graham Swan and Kevin Peterson actually helped out the groundsman by watering the grass at the end of play.
A massive surprise. I think we were all sort of fearing the worst. You know, I was prepared to sort of hide behind the sofa after our 5-0 whitewash 18 months ago. These great Australian fast bowlers coming over. They've won everything recently, the World Cup. We really thought, well, I thought 2-1, 3-1 to Australia. And then I think after Cardiff, after we won that test match, we thought, well, hang on a minute. Maybe things could be different this time. But then after the trouncing at Lords that we took against Australia, we thought normal service had been resumed. And then lo and behold, you know, next test match, you know, we win that very easily. So it's been a real roller coaster ride, I would say, this Ashes series.
Hello. So have you enjoyed the summer so far? The Ashes? Bit of it, yes. Anyone not enjoyed it? So just the one Australian over there. Adam Hill's bracing himself for the onslaught of vengeance from 18 months ago. And it's been great redemption for Alistair Cook. Are you Cook fans? Any Peterson fans? No, is there any crossover in that Venn diagram anymore?
Favourite moment of the Ashes so far? Well, it's probably a predictable one, but it has to be the first day of the Trent Bridge Test match when Stuart Broad completely cleaned up the Aussies and we had them 60 all out. Say another special mention maybe to Stephen Finn as well when he had that amazing comeback to Test cricket. So yeah.
So I was asked to go into this room. And there was these wonderful fine men in all their, three-piece suits and trilbies and all that sort of stuff. And, well, young Small, why do you want to play for England? And the manager at the time was a guy called David Brown, my manager at Warwickshire. He said these guys are quite smart. They're lawyers and solicitors, and said these are smart boys. They want to trick you, find you out. So he said, you'd be prepared. They're going to have one question for you. So this is it, and that was it. Why do you? So I said, oh well, if you take the West Indies team. They've got the likes of Andy Roberts, great bowler. Young guy called Michael Holden. Another couple of youngers, Malcolm Marshall, Joel Garner, Colin Croft. I think that's going to be a tough ask to get into that long. You take England, Bob Willis, my captain, he's always in hospital or in a pub somewhere, Both of them is going to be in jail before or something. So I said, well, I think I've got a better chance of playing for England, actually, to be honest. And the chairman of this meeting was a Welshman. And that was the first time I realised that they play cricket in Wales, to be honest. So he said, and apparently as I was showed out the room and they deliberated their decision. And he came back and he said, well, gentlemen, obviously young Gladstone, he's obviously very keen. He can obviously play because Warwickshire wouldn't want to sign him if he couldn't play. But there goes the least looking cricketer that I've ever seen.
Well, my standout player of the series, I think, is probably Joe Root. Joe Root has excelled in himself, especially with his batting, but he's taken 2 or 3 incredulous catches, So he's definitely looking like a vice captain, and he's definitely proven himself here. So he has.
Well done, everyone. Say it like you mean it. Do you know what's weird is I've been doing stand-up comedy, over the last few weeks and over the last decade, 15 years since I've been in England. I am now rehashing my England have beaten Australia in the Ashes material. This is made the 3rd occasion now. Right. This is like I'm doing 10-year-old jokes about England beating Australia in the Ashes.
Yeah, it's not funny anymore, is it, basically?
Oh, no, it is to the audience. It is pretty funny.
How does it compare to the 2010-2011? That was called, by somebody, the Ashes Horribilis for Australia. And to be honest, I think most English people have completely forgotten about it now because we are so used to beating Australia now.
I know. Well, it was the previous one for me, actually, was the worst because partly because of the English reaction. I was expecting... Because the lead up to an Ashes for an Australian over here, there's always vitriol, there's always anger, there's always, yeah. Like, it's real niggle. And I found out something about the English psyche, that when you win, you're very uncomfortable about gloating. Because after that particular Ashes, what was it, 2005?
2005.
I was over here and everyone had been really riling me up until you won. And then afterwards, I was expecting it. And I'd say to people, well done, congratulations on the Ashes. And there was this moment of... Oh, cricket was the winner, really. I mean, even my manager, who was English and really was riding me for the entire series, at the end of it, I called him up and said, well done. And he went, it's very magnanimous of you. And I thought, no Australian would say that if we had just won the Ashes.
On the first day of the Trent Bridge match, when I was at work and missed the beginning of the match, to listen to, and then by the time I started listening to it, about 11:15, there'd already been 3 wickets, and it was just bizarre. I sort of thought, oh, I might have missed a couple of balls, and it turned out I'd missed 3 wickets, and that was obviously set the tone for the rest of that innings, which was ridiculous.
The audition for the band, so the 2 guys had started the band, and they'd got the record deal, written the album, and they needed a drummer and a bass player. And they held auditions in London, and the audition fell on a Saturday, and obviously I had a cricket match. So I genuinely had this sort of dilemma where I thought, cricket or do I do the audition? And I went and spoke to my coach, and he said, go on, go and give it a go, and it'd be a good experience. And it turned out, quite well. And so it really was for me, music and cricket was always my main passions, yeah.
Joe Root, his batting and the way he's batted, not just the runs he's got, but how he's got his runs, have been really encouraging. But then between Joe Root, Ben Stokes, those are the 2 England superstars cricketers that England have going forward.
I think what's happened in the last year is that there's a lot more opinion on our game, a lot more coverage, and I think that's something we've had to cope with as players.
Yeah.
People are now criticising the game, where in the past that a little blip could go under the radar, but it doesn't anymore, and that's something I've had to cope with. But I think that's what we wanted as players. We wanted to raise the profile of the game. We've definitely done that. I think 5 years ago, us losing a game wouldn't have got any coverage in a paper. Now there was unprecedented coverage now of it, and that's something we're going to have to deal with as professional cricketers.
And as well as all the salaries and the contracts and everything, you also now, as sportsmen do, you get your sponsored cars. And I was just wondering, because I seem to remember in the old days, county cricketers, they had their names written up the side of their cars. Do you drive around in a car that says Charlotte Edwards?
No, I don't, definitely not. But I've got a Kia Sportage, which is really nice. So.
Just got a quick bit of breaking news coming through.
Oh, sorry.
The Barmy Army have announced that they've been forced to call up reservists from the territorial Barmy Army. Due to the intensive schedule for England's tours to the UAE and South Africa. Following the World Cup, 17 tests in 12 months, they're taking some heavy casualties. And they're taking the territorials, the Barmy Field Marshal, Renton Wells. So we don't expect them to know the words to all the songs. They just have to do a job on numbers such as, oh, Jimmy, 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 Anderson, at least until the Americans arrive.
I like Ben Stokes a lot. I'm a big Stokes fan, and that catch at Trent Bridge that even Stuart Broad looked like he couldn't believe that had happened. That was awesome. That was really, I think, the reaction of everyone summed up how mad that was as well. So yeah, it was great.
My mum claims the 9 for 57 because we were watching it, and every time she walked out of the room, he took another wicket. And my mum is so superstitious when it comes to sport that she just went and sat in the kitchen. She wouldn't come back. She missed the best England bowling performance in sort of 6-7 years because she cared so much.
Why did she not stay there for the following 10 years?
I think Joe Root's been magnificent. He's just playing so maturely now. The way he's developed over the last 18 months. He was left out of the side, I think, when he was in Australia. To come back from that and to play so dominantly, it's just been wonderful to see. Stuart Broad's been great, and actually Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes in the last test, I think he took 6 wickets, and he's one of those players who will not do anything for a couple of tests, and then suddenly he'll win a test match for you. I think he's a really exciting player to watch. I think he's in the mould of Freddie Flintoff, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Ben Stokes develops over the years to come.
Is it okay for an Englishman to hope that Michael Clarke scores a century this week?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Give him nothing. Give him nothing, and I'm sure that's what we've never beaten them 4-1 before in the Ashes series. So, and as Cook mentioned before the previous Test match, to the team, he challenged them to make history. So that will be making history, and I'm sure that's what the England boys will be setting out to do. And also for the Australians, if they can come out of this game with a draw, that would give them a little bit of, they might, obviously they're still going to go back with Aussie with their tails between their legs, but we don't want to give them anything, not a snippet.
Joe Root, I'd say, is a star man for me. Coming into the series, you had Steve Smith and Joe Root, the top two batsmen in the world, and thankfully he's come out on top.
My favourite moment of the Ashes, obviously winning has been fantastic, but obviously the noise of the crowd at Edgbaston, the second afternoon at Edgbaston, when the crowd felt the game swinging towards England's way, and every ball was being cheered and sang and celebrated. It was a fantastic time to be an England fan, watching a Test match game and England beating the Australians.